Welcome back to Gale Force Wins Season 4.
Well, I'm Allan Dale from Gale Force Winds, and what an absolute pleasure it is to be here in the brand new Tech Center in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. Good things are happening in Newfoundland and Labrador. There is little doubt about it. Minds are coming together. Great ideas are sprouting out. Unicorns have been produced just building across the street, and not only in the tech sector, but in the community largely, whether it's in renewable energy, whether it's in more traditional industries and fisheries and the ocean sector. Things are really booming in this province, and I'm so happy to be engaged in this conversation. I'm Allan Dale. With me, as always, my good buddy from the East End of St. John's, Gerry Carew. We are Gale Force Winds. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name is Meagan Kay Fowlow. I'm the president of officially the Co-Innovation Center, and we just opened this summer.
Here we are.
Here you are.
The Co-Innovation
You're
Center.
in it.
We're going to do a tour with you after this.
Perfect.
By the way.
Meagan, tell me a little bit about yourself. What was your journey to get here? Talk to me about that.
I think it's very representative that you did this because this has been a non-linear journey.
Okay.
So I, first of all, left Newfoundland 15 years ago with my husband. We moved to Ontario. Never thought that we would be back. We always had the dream that we would come back. I think a lot of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians feel that pull, but until I saw some really interesting work coming out of the med tech sector, I never really thought that it was possible to do the kind of work I was doing. And I was actually in the innovation space from the beginning. So I moved to Waterloo and ended up working global governance innovation. So at a think tank in Waterloo.
Interesting.
It was very high level, so related to different governance mechanisms, institutes, multilateral organizations, and then I wanted to do something where you could see the impact a bit more, so I moved into global health.
Still in the Waterloo area?
I moved to Toronto and worked with a really unique research consulting group, and we worked with global health actors and ran projects and worked in that space for almost 10 years. And that's tiring. So working internationally, working in global health, the pace is fast, and you're working at a high level, high quality outputs, and there's no breaks. So when the time came, I realized it's a good time to pivot, and the fact that there's innovation was kind of coming up regularly in the province, it appealed to me. But I actually took the jump and suggested, because of COVID, that my husband and I move home.
Really?
Yeah. So I was aiming to slow down things and kind of come home, bring our daughter home, see our families, and then this opportunity came up, and I thought,
Did you
that's
come
too
home
interesting.
to an opportunity, or you
No.
actually just said, I'm coming home? I'll see if there's an opportunity. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, so my husband was working remote at that time anyways from his company,
Right.
like many were.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe this is a good time to start consulting. So I was like, that way I can control my schedule, it'll be a bit more relaxed. And so I had taken on a little bit of work and had visions of taking it much slower than this, but I love building things and I love a good challenge. And so when the opportunity came up for this, I applied for it and never looked back.
Meagan, I love that. I love people who like to build things. So these are some of my favorite people. People who get up in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to use. I love that. And tell me a little bit about growing up in Newfoundland. What was that like for you? What big influences in your life back then? And where in Newfoundland?
Oh, interesting. So I've never had that question before, but my family, like we're from St. John's, lived downtown all my life. My parents love the downtown. They are die-hard. They still have the same house that we grew up in. And again, you have a very idyllic life. Like, so that for me, it was great because you feel safe. You have a lot of family around. It's a great community, but also tied to the outdoors. So we did a lot of outdoor sports. My family's big into paddling. And that's what we wanted to replicate for my daughter, and that's also one of the big draws why we came back. But yeah, so being near the ocean is something that's really important, and I don't know how to explain that to people who aren't. I don't know if it's an island thing or if it's just like Newfoundland, but having that connection to the ocean is really part of your identity, and when you leave this area, you feel it all the time. So we used to trick ourselves, and we lived in downtown Toronto. And we used to pretend that Lake Ontario was the ocean.
Doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. It does not smell the same.
No.
The waves aren't as big.
It's not, no.
Meagan, big family growing up? How big was your family?
So I did have a big family. We're very close as a family.
Yeah.
My one set of grandparents were here, but we used to do that every Sunday dinners. So I have cousins that I grew up with here, and then we dispersed. So half of us are in Ontario and half are here, and so that's actually how that connection happened.
Okay.
But I think we're very lucky to have like a big holiday family. Big events, games, very competitive family. We still maintain some of that core family traditions, especially at Christmas time.
I love that. Talk to me a little bit about your academic journey, your early days, and talk about that.
So I actually went to Memorial University. So I graduated from Memorial, and I really liked law. So I again, like many of my cohorts I did political science at Memorial, and your options really were going to law school, going into government, or staying in academia. Like obviously I'm generalizing, but I had always envisioned going to get a PhD, and so I was adamant about doing my master's, and so I'm quite stubborn. So I was adamant about doing a thesis-based master's, and so I had applied to several different schools, but ultimately my husband got accepted to Waterloo for his degree, his second degree that he wanted to do up there at sports management, and I was like, I'm going.
Yeah.
So I contacted the department and made a hard pitch, and again, it's like a lot of things in life, it's about timing and luck, and I got accepted after the end date, and we went to Waterloo, and so I did my graduate studies in Waterloo, but then I got work immediately, and it's interesting. This is my general philosophy, is just be prepared to take on whatever opportunities come up, but having a lot of work experience in academia and in the in-between, I think brought up some of the challenges with doing graduate level work, especially it's changed, and you're seeing it especially come up during COVID, but as a woman in academia, it's not great. And there was only one place I wanted to do my graduate program, and it was in the UK, and it would have meant not having a family. So there's choices you make, and I decided to have a daughter before I got too old.
Right.
And I laugh about that, but that is like, these are the kinds of decisions that come up.
That's huge, right?
Yeah, because it's like a 5+ year journey if you're going to go and do your PhD. But I'm 100% satisfied and happy with that decision. And again, it took me on a totally different direction. So,
tell me about Waterloo. Tell me about that's a fascinating part of Canada with a lot of big minds and a lot of great conversations, a lot of good things happening out of that, the sort of tech engine of our country for many, many years. Talk to me about it.
It is, and for me, that was really formative for, again, my innovation philosophy. There's definitely a certain way that a lot of businesses and individuals in Waterloo think about innovation, and so that was formative for how I think about innovation, because that's where I started my career, but that's also where I went to school, and it's such a unique ecosystem, but it's also so supportive for innovation. And when they think about it, it's that entire pipeline to get from like that idea, discovery of something, all the way to that delivery of some sort of novel technology, but also commercialization. And so it's it really influenced how I think about how you can do innovation, how you should do innovation, how you think about these things. And so for me, I really enjoyed that.
Must have been hard to leave it, was it?
Well, talking about the winding journey, my husband was commuting to Toronto at that time, so he had taken a job in Toronto. That's like a 2-hour 2-hour commute.
The best of days.
Yeah, on best of days, yeah. So he'd be on the Greyhound. And so ultimately, there were some moments at that time, I'm going to date myself, but we were having some consultations on the Millennium Development Goals, so which were the precursor to the Sustainable Development Goals. And we were at some meetings this is the story I tell people, that was like when I decided, okay, we're pivoting. But I was at the OECD with a delegation, and we were basically doing an engagement on what the future Millennium Development Goals should look like, and trying to engage with various representatives of different regions. And again, when you see how decisions are made at certain levels, it changes your perspectives on things. And in that way, I'll say it gently, but like that engagement wasn't meaningful, and a lot of those decisions were already made. And again, that is sometimes the reality of governance at different levels, but it wasn't a meaningful engagement. And I realized at that point, like, I don't want to keep doing this. So this isn't benefiting me. Like, I don't enjoy this. And at that point, I decided, I'm going to pivot back to global health. That was kind of an area that my degree had somewhat focused on. And I spent the next year like figuring out how to reorient myself towards that sector, and then switched off and went to Toronto.
Meagan, that's what you just described there. I mean, you summarized it in 90 seconds, but that's a tumultuous time when you're involved in something and you realize at some point, oh gosh, I'm not meant to be here. This is not, I don't have the impact that I had hoped that I would have, or my voice is not as heard in the same way I want it to be. That's complicated, right? I mean, walk me through sort of that decision to say, I'm done. I know I can add more to this conversation, and it may not be here. Walk me through that.
God. Well, now many years removed from that, I think what's challenging for a lot, and I was myself as well, but when your identity is so tied to the work that you're doing, it does make it harder to do that. So you have to kind of work through those challenges as well. And for me, I just couldn't, that didn't work for me in my values anymore. And I had a really supportive husband, and the reality was it was no longer my passion. And I think that's important to recognize, because when you're doing really challenging work, if you lose the passion, it becomes miserable.
Yeah.
And so being honest with yourself is really critical at those times, and to have a great supportive group around you, because it's not easy to pivot. Like, I say it jokingly, but I was an entire year of re-strategizing, identifying. I had great career coaches at that time who also said, like, if you're pivoting, focus not on what you want to do or where you want to work, but who. So the who is almost more important. So who are the kinds of people you want to work with? Find them, talk to them, and figure it out that way. And I think that was great advice, and it's really important, because that's who you're spending your days with, and you have to kind of be on the same page. And it makes it, again, you're always going to have challenging times, but if you're on the right path, you're passionate about it, and you're with people who align with your purpose and vision, then it's much easier. But it can be very challenging when you lose that piece.
I love how you describe that with the undercurrent of support, whether that's from a very supportive spouse or career coaches or mentors or people that are important to you. That support network is so important.
It is, yeah.
In fact, I would argue it's the base of what we have here in the tech sector, right? I mean, it's a supportive group of people wanting people to succeed, right? That's a great explanation of making that transit, and thank you for that. Now, you start this international work. Where does that take you? Where does that take you?
So
Because we're going back to this.
I know it is. Well, this is the thing. You have to be able to pivot. So within a week of joining my new job, I was off to Seattle because that's where our partner and funder was stationed. And I love Seattle, so that was great. But a lot of the projects and works were also global. And it wasn't new to me because, again, working global governance, we were doing projects in Beijing, in South America, and it sounds exciting from the outside, and I'm sure you all know this, but working in nice locations is actually sometimes like depressing because I remember being in Rio and not even getting a chance to touch the sand.
Right.
So I was on a 10-day trip at one point down in Uruguay and Brazil, and it was just a 10. I know my capacity. I can go 10 days hard,
Right.
but after that, I lose steam.
Funny, Meagan, those that haven't experienced that kind of work travel don't know,
No,
right?
it seems like so fun.
There's the beach. Oh, but we're here editing.
Correct. Yeah. So you're in suits
Yeah.
and you're trying to function at like various different meetings and like switching and pivoting. So it's interesting and it's important work, but it's also, I think there's a shelf life because I also, in global health, I saw a lot of my colleagues get really sick.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, and continue working again because when that's your identity, it really gives you no other option to keep pushing through, and you're prioritizing things over your health, which I'll be honest, that scared me personally. So that's when during COVID we really sat back again as a family and had those conversations to try to figure out what's important. And so and then we pivoted again.
Talk to me about that pivot.
That was a more unique pivot. My husband is going to be like, if you put this on the internet, now everyone will know. But it is.
He's a supportive guy. I already know that. He's
You know
gonna
what?
support this.
It is a funny story. So we were living in downtown Toronto again at this time, right downtown, and the pandemic hit, and Toronto was so bizarre at that.
Right.
It was a ghost town.
It's always bizarre, but
It was, but even
It's worse.
the best part of Toronto were the people and the energy.
Yeah.
It was gone,
Right.
and everything was just really quiet, and it was kind of creepy. And we had no support family at that time, really, in that specific area.
And your daughter's how old?
So she was 3 or 4. She's in grade 2 now.
Okay.
Wow, very young.
Yeah. So we
You're locked down in the house with a
locked
3-year-old. Yeah.
Luckily, my sister had moved in with us, but she was working, and so it was nice in some ways because it forced us to spend a lot more time with her, which I never would have chosen.
Yeah.
Because at that time I'm a recovering workaholic. It is a thing you try every day and you have to maintain, but when I was working in global health in Toronto, I was definitely like going as much as I could. It was the max effort, and the pandemic forced me to reevaluate all of that and figure out what was really important. And now, all of that to say, I was facing a career pivot regardless, but we popped down to Newfoundland when your bubble opened. We were jealous of the bubble. I heard so many stories of how great it was during the pandemic down here, and we were just like, we're not having the same experience. But we flew down for Christmas, and I think that was 2019. And my husband, like a day before Christmas Day, a day before Christmas Eve, his eyesight just like dropped out of one eye. And so we were obviously concerned, and we were lucky to get in to see a doctor, and it turned out his retina had detached. And which is not funny. He's great now, but so Christmas Day he goes in for surgery.
Holy shit.
But we were, again, really lucky timing.
Yeah.
So the surgeons basically happened to be there in the ER. He's like, I can get you in now, like right now. You need to make a decision. And we had 2 minutes to decide, because once you do it, you're grounded for like 6 to 8 weeks,
Right.
because you can't fly.
And you're in Newfoundland?
We are in Newfoundland, so I'm
place
over
to
at the
be?
Health Sciences, like one day before our first Christmas in years. And so we looked at each other and we're like, we're not going back to Toronto, especially, again, they were having like a peak COVID situation at that time. And so we were like, let's do it. And so off you went to surgery. But it required like such a long recovery period that my daughter and I, we had to entertain ourselves for a bit. And so then that's when really I started to figure out if we could make something work here. And I was actually going to go into a different direction. I was going to start a business.
Yeah.
In addition to the consulting. And so I was going around looking for land. He's just lying there recovering. And I have other plans at this point because I am, again, still a workaholic at that point. I can't sit still.
Right.
But I found a house that was more interesting than the land. And then I convinced him to build a house. And then I bought a dog. And then we were fully committed to living here.
You know, it's strange, right, how sometimes a pivot can be by design.
Yeah.
Or it can be by accident. And you go to crossroads.
Yep.
Right? You're at a crossroads then. One by design, it's a little easier to figure out. You were I say easier to figure out. It was a year and a half of struggle, right? That you summarized in 90 seconds, but that was a pivot by design. This one is a pivot, certainly not by design, but yet your ability to say, okay, we're gonna try this, we're gonna do something, we're gonna make something of it. That's a skill.
I have a higher risk tolerance than many people, so I think that's.
So tell me about that.
I can't explain why, but it's probably a combination of many years of just.
Is it that you know things will work out, or you know that you've got the drive to make things work out, or you are generally comfortable with the uncertainty?
I'm very comfortable with the uncertainty, and I think that's where to be able to work at high levels, under time pressure, you have to be able to go with like 80% is better than like, what is that Facebook saying, Mark Zuckerberg, but like, just go with it. It's as good as it's going to get. And then you work off of that. And so for me, uncertainty doesn't make me uncomfortable. So I joke with my mom's just having heart attacks over here when I'm making these changes, but we really realize her risk tolerance is very low. And different generations. Yeah. And whereas I guess this could go back to experiences that different generations have. So again, my generation and a lot of the younger generations have had very different, can't remember the name of it, but it's like these key moments that affect like how you perceive the world.
Significant emotional events.
There's definitely some official name for it, but we've had, right, like I was in university my first year, and you have 9/11, and then you have the financial crisis, and then you have like epidemics. And so there's no certainty in life. And if you can, for me, I would just accept that. But I also really follow the philosophy of like, you can't change what's happened. You can change how you react to it. And then you can change the direction you're going to go in next and leverage that. And again, half of it's luck, and the other half is not fighting it too much.
Right.
So
I think if you work hard, you do mitigate risk.
You do, yes. I have confidence in my ability.
You've multiple times said you're a workaholic, so I think that builds confidence.
I do have confidence in my ability to deliver. Yeah. I think that is necessary.
Right.
And that goes into those calculations, I guess.
Yeah.
You have to break it down.
And you know, the other side of it too is a lot of people just negotiate with themselves. They talk themselves out of everything. They just constantly negotiate themselves out of things. And I often tell people, let's not negotiate with ourselves here. Yeah. Let's find out what the answer is, or let's start down the path. And it sounds to me like you're very much like that. You know, probably sort of push that aside. I'm going to give this a try.
I have excellent compartmentalization skills. Yeah. But I think also when you were saying that, another thing popped up now. Let's see if it comes back. But basically, the ability to not negotiate, but to talk yourselves out of things. So
that's it,
yeah, I think that's key, because if you think about things too much, anything, you can talk yourself out of anything.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly what I mean, right? Is this in the back of your mind, or wherever that part is in your mind, 1,000 reasons why not to do something, right?
Yeah.
There's always 1,000 reasons. And there's one or two reasons and it's the people that go after the one or two that, by and large, being the most successful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Allan, one of your favorite sayings I liked at the beginning of Gale Force Winds, Allan kept saying to me, you know, too many people tune the guitar and they don't actually go and play the gig, musical analogy. We stopped tuning the guitar and just started playing the gig.
Yep.
Right?
And I have that same philosophy, which is what we're doing here. We're building the plane while flying it.
Yeah.
You get great real-time data, you get great feedback, but a lot of people are very uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
But especially, and this is why it relates to innovation, you don't have, like, innovation's an iterative process. You can't plan a very specific activity, roll it out in that exact way, and then close it off.
Right.
So it's not, innovation doesn't really work in that traditional, very structured way. So I think, that philosophy for me works very well in these types of spaces, but that's the only way you're going to be able to do things differently.
Yeah, but that's a fairly new philosophy, right?
It's true.
Really only 20 or 30 years.
It's true.
Maybe 40 years old, because if you think back, okay, light bulb, car, internet, things, but the internet arrives and all of a sudden we're innovating, and so the previous generation are looking at us like, oh my God, what do you mean there's no pension? What do you mean there's,
Yeah, that's scary for everyone.
right? Like, what do you mean that stuff is not in place for you, right? Whereas this group of people here are looking at things way different than they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's kind of a cool place to be. Sounds to me like you were early to that game, and maybe Waterloo was a big part of that, because Waterloo was early to that game, right?
Yeah.
So what a great background that you've told us about you and the way you think. It's a near perfect fit for where we are today. Talk to me about this place.
Well, one of the things that pops up is when you're doing things that are new, I think that some key qualities that you should have is being comfortable being uncomfortable, because a lot of it is unknown. So again, setting up an innovation center in the province, this is new.
So this is the Newfoundland and Labrador Innovation Center.
That's how we think about it. So again, we're co-innovation center officially in our branding, and that really goes back to our philosophy and almost our like mantra, which is converge, collaborate, co-create. And we want people to come together to do that. But this isn't just for this area. The goal is to engage and support collaboration across the province. And so that's for businesses across industries, across the province. And it's going to be a big journey. And also it's changing people's minds on how you work together. What's interesting though for Newfoundland, and this is again totally anecdotal, but what intrigued me was I feel like in our culture we are primed a little bit for collaboration. Obviously we have the scarcity challenges, so you also have a competition challenge there as well, but there's way more collaboration in this across sectors in the province, in businesses here, than I've seen elsewhere, and I find that really intriguing. So you already don't have to lay that groundwork, and you can just set up different supports and parameters, and hopefully we can foster more and more of that. But that is already something that is here, and it's noticeably different than other areas, especially in. So you go into like the health tech sector, or even just the tech sector, say in Ontario, there's a lot more competition and hesitancy to collaborate, and understandably so. It's a very fast-paced industry, and everyone's looking for the unicorns. So that's kind of the focus. Whereas here, I don't know what it is, but it definitely makes it more interesting. Yeah.
It's led by the tech sector, but it's not all tech companies, correct? There's is Equinix part of Equinix is here, Energy NL is here as well.
Yeah. So actually, there's a good kind of clarifying moment.
Yeah.
So the goal really, I like to say that this was supported, and it was initially led because again, there was stories I've heard of this being on people's minds for 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of visions and a lot of interest in having something like this. Again, a space for them to come together. But ultimately, techNL was able to support the setup of it because it didn't exist. You need to have a company host it and set it up and be the one to lead that piece. And so techNL took that on, but in partnership with Ocean Supercluster, Energy NL, ERINL, so you're right, EcoNext, they came together kind of to work and ideate around what this would look like and get it past that finish line. And now we're moving forward with them, but also ultimately the Innovation Center, this space, and what will happen is going to be spun out. And it will be independent, not for profit, but for all sectors. And so tech is going to be critical to development in the province. So that's always going to be a key piece. They're obviously housed here as well, and they're going to be a core partner. But this is not something that will happen alone. It's only going to move forward with collaboration, partnership with all of the industries.
So just so I understand, is the Econext and the those associations housed here, or did they help build it? Their staff are here as well?
So their staff are here right now. They're welcome anytime.
Yeah.
But the way they were involved in the original partnership, so getting everything prepared.
Yeah.
But they're also critical for us to move forward. Ideally, what I think would be really interesting, and we do have already some industry associations here, and there's a lot of interest from other industry associations to be housed here. And so ultimately, if we want to foster collaboration across industries, if we have all of the industry associations represented in different ways here, then that would be great. So we've been having conversations with a variety. So you have, again, one of the big things, mining, we didn't even mention, but there's going to be a lot of ramp up of activity in mining, and there's a lot of innovation and room for innovation in the mining sector, aquaculture, and again, you've mentioned clean energy, but also and it's endless, to be honest, for Newfoundland and where we can go. We have a great resource sector. And so are there ways to work with those different sectors, those industries, to modernize, even established businesses that say work in aquaculture or mining? And how do we do that? Because if we can figure a way to elevate businesses that are already established, it's going to have real impact on economic development for the entire province. So for a space like this, trying to keep it as open as possible, engage with as many stakeholders, but really it's ecosystem development. Tech is going to be at the core of that because, again, that's the reality of all of our lives. But I see tech as enabling all of those ecosystems. So it's not, again, how do we remove the silos and work together so we're all benefiting?
Tech is it's basically, to consider it a sector is incorrect in many ways. It's a new language. Tech is finding its way through all of the sectors. It intertwines. It's agnostic of sector. Every sector needs it. I love the vision of them all coming together, because when you create that collision, guaranteed there's going to be cross collaboration. Technologies that have dual use, dual purposes are spun out and created. Just imagine the great things that can happen. You got to get them all in, but sometimes it's like herding kittens, right? Because you've got all of these associations set up, and they've been, some of them very well established over many, many years, right? Some of them new, and they're all trying to figure out where they fit. But providing this with government funding and stuff, right? Fueling this fire behind, it's a great collaboration of industry, academia, government, helping out. In fact, it's not lost on me, when this building was opened, the very first interview that the Premier gave was with us, Gale Force Winds. He came right from here. We were waiting in his office, and he told us all about it. So it's not lost on me that we're here today. I want to go back to your point about people collaborate different here. They understand, and we've been tapping on this for 4 years now. We've been pulling on this thread for 4 solid years.
Because
there's a secret sauce.
There is. I feel like you probably see it more than others.
We see it all the time. We see it in every sector. We see it in every person we talk to. There is this genuine desire to see people do well. People understand here that a rising tide floats all boats.
Yep.
You don't see that everywhere, do you?
No.
You know. You came from it.
Yeah, you do.
How refreshing is that for you?
It is very motivating because, again, for me, there are many who stayed in the province and have worked really hard to support businesses in the province and work in the province and people. And then there are others like myself who left and just didn't see a space to contribute. And so being able to come back and support the province that my family's from, and then also to create pathways for my daughter to stay if she wants to have that choice is really important. So that's kind of the piece that motivates me now is how do we create a great stable platform for the future and ensure that those choices are there. So there's so many interesting things happening in this province, and this is one of the great ways I'd love to use this space is also to showcase that, to talk about, again, these stories of innovation that you're seeing across the province. What are the businesses doing? What are the sectors doing? And also creating those collisions between those areas. It's really interesting because you were right, there's a lot of dual use technology, but also just approaches that people can share because they've taken it and they've seen the results, but it would be so valuable in a completely different sector.
Right.
And so what's really interesting is we're seeing that naturally. And so we've been able, as we're ramping up and opening the space, we've seen a lot of just these natural collaborations occur in our, I'll take you on the tour, but in our light industrial space, we have, it's called Additive XL, and they have a 3D printing fit up, full machining warehouse there, and they can 3D print, but they can also fabricate from all the way from CAD, design something that's very specific to a business's need. And they've been collaborating with Genesis startups. And so there was a need in the community for a certain space, and they've been open and very willing to open their doors and work with at least 2 startups right now. And so that just happened naturally. So what happens when we ramp that up and open the doors and encourage that more? So it's really, that's exciting to see.
It's the right place at the right time. I mean, Allan and I, you're right, we've traveled this province. We've traveled around the world, but this province has something special going on. Stephenville with the World Energy GH2, the salt domes in Stephenville, the mining sector, Eric Sprott, we've interviewed him. He said it's probably the largest gold find in the history of the world.
And people don't know about this.
Everwind Fuels down on the Bjorn Peninsula, Argentia, the tech sector. You're in the right place at the right time. I can tell you're excited about it.
I love it. So again, I do love building things, but also it's really important. So this is important work, and I think that I just happened through whatever coincidences, the right skill set to be able to come in at this time. But there's so many people working hard on this. And so I don't actually have to do a lot because part of it is it's there. So one of the, again, I won't specifically say areas, but there are some areas who are very confident in the businesses and the products and the innovations that are rolling out, and they love to talk about it. And they aren't that great. But they have great marketing and they have the great confidence in it, and there's no humbleness there. And we have world-leading products and businesses that can stand on their own. They don't need to partner with others to give them legitimacy or quality. They can deliver, and so it's really exciting to be able to run with that and give them space to, whether it's showcase what those businesses are. This is a location by the airport, by the highways. It's a great kind of one-stop shop that we could provide delegations. You come from the airport, come in and see the breadth of work that's happening across the province.
And there's so many people in the conversation that want to help the other people along, right? Back to this sort of rising tides thing. You know, I can't help but think of, you know, we talked about all the industries and the sectors that are on fire. But academia, I mean, they're leaning into this full force, whether it's private colleges or public colleges and university. The institutions are leaning in to all of these sectors, and they understand that if we can get everybody in the same room, we can really create good things. Kean College is a real leader in that, right? And they understand that if we can get people talking, good things will happen here, because people just want to share their ideas. Right? I love the fact that you're right. You've got an additive manufacturing shop right next to one of the world-leading shipbuilders in Genoa. Does that not make sense? That they need additive manufacturing every day of the week, and they're just one door away. that they can ideate together, right? And you've got people that are in completely different sectors, whether it's healthcare and you got an additive manufacturing job that can help them too. So you've got all of these things. And so what is the future look like? So first of all, how do people sort of access this, and what do the ideal clients look like for you?
Yeah, and so I think this is a good pivot, because for us, the future looks like expanding our ability to support. So number one, was very smartly done. I can't take credit for this, but this was built in 2 phases. And so phase 1 is this office that you see, the mezzanine. So it's a 10,000 square foot mezzanine that was specifically added because Rona, which is what the original building was, didn't have that second, technically second floor space. So
Second floor, they were talking about.
And it wraps around the entire back of the building. So it's 10,000 square feet that was added. But to do that, then we've had to phase out the building. And so there's a phase 2 that we're just in the middle of trying to figure out support, capital support on that piece. And once that's done, that vision is where we can put those industry associations. We have space for that. And also we have the ability to respond to a lot of the data that we've been getting on what people are looking for. They're looking for meeting space. They're looking for, they want to be in a collaboration space, but they also need that privacy. They want to bring their teams in, but they want to be able to interact with others. So we've been kind of engaging with a lot of the early members to get feedback on what was working, what's not working. And that way we'll be able to roll out the second piece of the construction in a very purposeful way. So that was very smart. I can't take credit for that, but we're going to run with it. And then the future, like this building, really has the ability to house in the light industrial space a lot of different fit ups, but also maker spaces and demonstration space. So we've been toying with also like an innovation showcase area that would rotate through different companies. So if you need to demonstrate something large, this is the thing, there are large, massive projects here that people don't even understand the magnitude of. And could we do mock scale up demos of it? Have it in there. We love a good event. Can you do a showcase where you can walk through an interactive display? And this is something that might be interesting, again, to large businesses or industries if you're rolling out novel products. We have hydrogen facilities, wind farms, anything that's comes with innovation that's new also comes with misunderstanding. And so to do that, we have to have a very strategic way of communicating about it. And people just sometimes don't understand what's coming, because a lot of what we're doing is new. So you have to deal with that resistance to change. And I think really great is to do that is to just show people what it is and get them in there. And so that's an interesting piece that I've been thinking a lot about, because in Newfoundland, we like things how they are, but to move forward, we are going to have to change some of the ways that we're doing things.
100%. Meagan, how do you envision sort of bringing rural Newfoundland in and Labrador? Great innovation happening there, right, all around our province. How do you envision bringing them into the fold?
Well, it's not necessarily also even bringing them here. It's going to them as well, and figuring out what do they need, what are they interested in partnering on, and that's a big piece for us that we are having a lot of conversations about, because for better or worse, we are here in St. John's. This physical building's here, but that doesn't mean the innovation center is only for one group. And there's a lot of the resource-based businesses and work is being done outside of the Avalon. And so that's going to be critical for us. Again, going back to mining, forestry, construction, there's really unique approaches that businesses are doing to move forward on a lot of this. You had that massive construction project in Argentia. You have industry associations like TradesNL. They're doing interesting things, and part of that is just telling people what is already happening in your area. But what I think about is, again, where can you have the most impact? Where do you already have established businesses? And innovation doesn't always have to be big. Can you do process innovation? Can we support modernization in different ways? Can you work with those businesses to get them the supports they need just to do that? So there's a lot of different things we're mapping out, but part of it is getting people to understand how they can engage with us and what we can do at a time. Because I'll be honest, we are a very small and agile team right now.
Right.
And so we're also trying to manage people's expectations.
Yeah.
I would love to do so much.
Right.
And we'll get there, but yeah, it's...
On that note, I have a question around youth. Where do the youth of Newfoundland fit in terms of information? I'll give you a reason why I'm asking this question. I have a nephew who I asked about 6 months ago, what do you think of the Newfoundland economy? And he said, the same old, oh, it's terrible, blah, blah, blah. Well, no. As I just illustrated, Gale Force Wind's been all over Newfoundland. We know we're on the cusp of something great. How does the youth fit into here? What's your vision for that?
That's a great question, and I think it's going to be really important. But I think techNL right now has a great high school program. There's a lot of people like Kian who all are working with the K to 12 groups, and for us, we're happy to host and partner with those. I don't want to, again, we're not going to be taking on activities that other groups are already doing. So I think of it in 3 different ways. So either we're enhancing the ecosystem. So techNL is already running this high school tech immersion program. That was great. So we participated and actually brought in 5 high school students during that program. And we purposely brought in remote high school students as well to try and engage with them. They're so smart. And they are getting great opportunities before they even come here. So the things they know surpass what I even know. So we had a great proposal on an ROV racetrack that we could do for a remote operations racetrack. And we would love to be able to move that forward. So again, giving them space to showcase their ideas and to support that. So that's more of the enhancing, and then connecting the ecosystem. We want to find ways to better connect. Right. So that is another one that we can do. Again, bringing those high school students, can we do them remote? Can we host different things? And then we'll fill gaps. So the Innovation Center will focus on filling gaps. And that is, right now, our priority will be remote operations. That was one of the primary areas that was identified, and that's where we'll prioritize our programming. But in terms of the students, again, it's not our primary mandate, but the reality is they're the pipeline, and they're the future. And if they don't see a future, as I didn't see, then you're already disadvantaged. So.
Do you envision hackathons, like Hack the North, maybe Hack the Rock? You see those things happening?
Hackathons are very successful here. Again, we would love to host other groups. So we've had requests from other groups to host those here. And my goal is to say yes to as much as possible. I love the idea of innovation challenges. So can you get real problems and get them in there and working to provide actual solutions that could come to fruition? So I love that idea as well. So it's not just, again, you can open it up across sectors that way. So could you have an aquaculture innovation challenge, or could you have a mining innovation challenge? And that, again, will happen in partnership with different groups. But I love those ideas. So yeah.
This is a wonderful space. There's no doubt about it. How do people access it? And sort of what is the model? Is it you're in, you're out, or can it be hybrid, or how does it look?
So one of the things, again, I break down, this is both a facility, so we've taken on landlordship of this facility, and also setting up and running an innovation center. And so on the space side of things, we're testing out different models to see if what works for the businesses. Because a lot of businesses, what we found, really want that ability to drop in or to have a hybrid location if they're working on different projects. And then they also want private offices. So in phase 2, private offices or offices where they can have like a 2-person team in there is really going to be beneficial. in terms of connecting with us, so we have a landing page, and soon we'll be rolling out our official website. So on our landing page, there's an application form. And again, we do want people to think of it not as a co-working space. What we want is that collaboration philosophy, that collaboration mindset. So there's a very brief application. And as long as you're interested or working in certain sectors, which is really all sectors, do you work in anything related? And are you interested in collaborating? The hybrid option is there. So you get 1-2 days a week. You can drop in, book a desk, have access to the space, have access to the amenities. There's also single desks that can just be leased for full time. And then we are office-wise, they're full. So we have ERI&L you've seen. They have a large team here. techNL's team is here. They're probably the two largest, and that isn't our model moving forward. But again, as core anchor tenants, they've been.
Right.
It's really critical to have those groups in. But yeah, so we're rolling it out actively. We only officially opened the doors June 7th, I think.
Wow.
And so we're had to get some infrastructure pieces in place after that, and
You're building it while you're flying?
we are building it while we're flying it.
Well, that's great. You know, we often ask people that come on the podcast and people who've had interesting journeys like yours.
The weaving journey. Yeah.
To leave sort of the audience with a piece of advice, because there's no doubt in my mind that your journey will inspire others to make decisions in their life. They'll be at a point where, oh, should I do this? I'm not sure. And they'll listen to your conversation and say, wow, I got to do it because it's the right thing. What would a piece of advice look like from you?
Can I give two pieces? Because now that you've said that,
We have the whole internet.
So-
Give as much as you want.
So I guess my main piece of advice, really, especially because of how things are working nowadays, is just be prepared to take on different opportunities. It may not be what you planned, and it may not be something you ever expected. And so just go for it. So if you're ready to take that on, it can take you down a very winding, different road. But it's I think that's the future, and it makes it more exciting and more interesting. So definitely be prepared to pivot. And then early in my career, I think this goes back to confidence and being able to deal with the uncertainty. I had great advice from an early mentor, and it was actually about integrity. So it was like, understand your integrity line very early on. I tell all students I work with and any new employees the same story, because if you don't have that solid in your mind early on, it's kind of like if you're swimming in a lake. You can get very far out and then realize when you turn back around, you're so far from shore, and it's very hard to get back. And so as long as you have that integrity line set in your mind early on, it allows you to make hard decisions, which there's going to be a lot to come, very easily. And so that's my two pieces of advice.
That's fantastic.
Wonderful.
Those are fantastic. Jerry, your thoughts?
Well, you know what? I think it's amazing what you're doing here. Just knowing that we're on the cusp of the greatest economic resurgence this province has ever seen. You're here at the right time. I think what we're going to do now is I'm going to go behind the camera, and Allan is going to actually take you to conclude this interview as we go mobile. Allan, how about
Great.
that?
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do a little walkthrough. That'll be great.
Perfect.
Well, Meagan, I got to tell you, it's so fun to be at the at this new tech center. So much collaboration. When you can already when you walk into a place, sometimes you can get a vibe, right?
Yes.
You know, good things are happening. You know, people are talking. You know, that whole idea around collaboration, people coming together. We talked about it on the podcast earlier.
did.
A rising tide float all boats, and here we are. We're in this great center here, a little cafe right now. And this is, what is this space designed for? And we'll start in this space and we'll take a little walk around. Talk to me about this space.
So actually, this goes to my collaboration doesn't happen just by chance. So again, you have to really foster and support collaboration. And one of the ways that I like to do that is, again, we're great at this, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, but social. So getting people together, having different ways that they can engage with each other. So for the cafe is a really exciting opportunity because this will be a public space. So anybody can drop in, have a conversation, have a meeting, run into a colleague that you haven't seen in a while. And so that's a really important key piece to the basis of the center. But what's exciting is this is Cape Coffee. It's run by Cape Coffee, which is Bannerman's sister business, and so this is their first location, and they're running it. It's their coffee, and it's going to be great. So we're really excited that they'll be able to be here and offer coffee and beer.
Coffee and beer. So innovation right to the core. As soon as you enter in, you've got a new business starting up right here. Well, let's take a little walk through this space. And when I came in this morning, there was two folks from Japan. They were economic development people here to meet. I mean, I see there's universities here from the Caribbean that just arrived at the door, which is simply fantastic. As we walk in to the space, it's wide open, it's bright, a lot of desks. Talk to me about your vision for this.
Yeah, so this is, again, our open collaboration space. What we would love is businesses to drop in, not just specific to one sector. Come in, you see your colleague, you chat. Again, we've had jokes about people sponsoring the water cooler, but it is meant to be a vibrant area where people can come together, but also kind of figuring out what works best. And so we also have soundproof meeting pods that gives companies privacy, so they can pop in, have those meetings, and still use the system. We actually have Genoa here doing a training session, and they're running that until December.
Wow.
So that was something that we hadn't planned for, but they came and approached us, and it worked out. And so it's something we'll consider replicating again as well.
So a big space where people can go off-site from where they normally are, do training, things like that. When you become a member of the center, do you get access to all of this stuff?
Yeah, so what we've done is it's basically done as a membership. So a desk is part of the membership, an office would be part of that level of membership, and then you also have basic amenities like internet, printing services, but access to all of the different meeting spaces, and then we're rolling out programming this fall as well. And so all of that programming is available to members free, and they can register whether it's in person or virtual. And do you want to see the greenhouse?
Yes, we definitely want to see the greenhouse.
Because this is a fun space that we're just working on finishing. So originally they were going to tear this down, but it's a great space. We actually used this for our launch event, and it was beautiful. We had brought in flowers and had Bannerman cater it with food and some of their great beer. But it's also, it's going to be a flex space for members day to day. So we've ordered actually like 6 picnic benches from a local business in Holyrood.
Right.
And we're waiting for the rest to be delivered. And then this is, again, getting people outside together. We've had some cornhole tournaments with the members here, and so it's that casual engagement across the board, and it's going to be really interesting.
It's a great space, right? I mean, you can book out an event here, you can do all kinds of things. It's nice to have the inside and the outside option, right? Which is great.
Yeah, no, we're
and
really
lots of
excited
parking.
about this.
I noticed there's all kinds of parking.
There is a lot of parking, and it's free, and I think that's a critical piece for us. It's sometimes it's challenging here to access parking, so it makes it accessible, a low barrier.
Right, exactly. It's all about that, isn't it? A low barrier to entry. I noticed that as we go back inside, aside from the desks, there's a lot of offices on both sides. Talk to me a little bit about why would you choose an office or a desk, or is it you have access to those spaces?
So what we're rolling out, again, we're iterating as we go, as we receive feedback. But this is currently rented out to I believe it's Spellbook, and so they're using this space for now, but this will be a rotating service provider office, and they'll come in, and I think of it like, you know, that TD green chair, drop in and chat with us.
Exactly.
So that's amenity, a service for the members. They'll have access to that. So whether it's a law firm or whether it's professional services, consultant, so we're just ramping up that piece as well. These are all individual, and they're leased out individually. And so right now we also have techNL in the offices, and we have what we're calling double offices, and this is Additive XL's actual team. So they have a space here and in the light industrial area.
Right.
And then you interviewed, I think, Andrea King.
I did, yeah.
And her team's office is just down that hallway.
Oh, wow. And you can see the mezzanine, very nice. So you say 10,000 square feet up there?
Correct.
Wow.
So that's only part of it. And what I can do is I can show you the future after, which is in that behind that wall.
Okay.
you also get to see the phone booths, which people love.
Right.
So these have been quite popular. We only have 2 for now. We didn't know if people were going to use them or not. This is Caden, one of our business students who's working with us right now.
And outside here is your build space, yeah?
Correct.
Let's take a
So
little-
let's pop through here.
Yep. So, what I'm sensing here, Meagan, is it's a blank canvas.
Correct.
Right? It's an opportunity here for people to get in this early. I mean, you're part of the whole, you're part of building something here, even when you come.
It is.
Right?
And that's the exciting piece, right?
Right.
So
Oh, wow.
this is we have 50,000 square feet just over total. This is about 20,000 square feet.
Okay.
And so we're in the process of finalizing a matching fit up on this side.
Okay.
For another company. And then it's a mix of different uses throughout the space. And one thing we really keep hearing is there's also smaller companies who are beyond the startup accelerator phase, but it's still a little expensive to rent real estate. So they're looking for space to do soldering or 3D printing. And so we're looking into different models. There's great options in Houston of what other companies have done where you can rent little pieces.
Yeah.
Again, my philosophy is try to be as multi-purpose as possible.
Right.
Give people that flexibility. In between those 2 areas, this is the innovation exhibition space we've been kind of thinking about. And if you can fit it up like a blank canvas, kind of like, did you go to the Vincent van Gogh immersion?
Right, yeah.
So could you do a blank slate where you could immerse yourself
Right, of
with
course.
projectors, but also 3D, AR, VR?
I mean, this is a wonderful space. So your vision is to rent it out by square foot. Is that how it works?
So we've done it by square foot. That's how it currently is. We've also got a maker space planned for here as part of the high school tech immersion program with techNL.
Yeah.
That will go here as well.
Lots of power, lots of ventilation, lots of lighting. It's everything you need.
Yeah, and then there's a separate entrance here as well.
Okay.
Now, there is an additional space that's not currently part of us, but 5,000 square feet next to us.
Okay.
That is available if a business is looking to take something like that on.
Really?
We've been looking for companies that are interested in being adjacent to the innovation space. But it's a quite a large space there as well.
Well, we'll walk back out to the main area and we'll end at the coffee shop.
Perfect.
And Meagan, I got to tell you that what has been created here is fantastic in its initial phase, but I love the fact that you're constantly iterating, right? It in it of itself is exactly what this place is all about, right? It's just constantly getting better, constantly getting better. What would you tell people that are considering, like, hey, should I be here or not? I don't know where to go. What do you tell them?
Well, I think the great thing is we're open to work with them. So what problems are you trying to solve? Who are you trying to work with? And I'm happy to sit down with them and try to figure out how to make that work here. The great thing is there's so many businesses who are really wanting to work with others.
Yeah.
And so part of it when you're setting up something new is getting that feedback from them, because we could plan it ourselves and then it's not going to be used properly. So getting that engagement with the businesses and the users is critical. So I'm more than happy. I try to tell people I will say yes to as much as possible.
Meagan, you got a big week coming up soon. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so techNL's Innovation Week is next week. It's a 3-day event, and we have Tech Fest being hosted here at the Innovation Center as kind of a new kickoff. So we're really excited about that. It's again test for the space. So we also love a good party, and then innovation, I guess techNL's Innovation Week is really getting chock full of AI related content about people. It's going to be some great speakers. We'll have a booth there as well. There's also a tech market, and it's going to be really exciting. So
your final thoughts, you've been around the tech industry for a long time. You've been into the hub of it all right here in Waterloo. Tell me, give me your final thoughts on tech in Newfoundland at the moment.
Look, I think for provinces and areas like ours, which are resource heavy but also isolated from others, there are moments in time when you can leapfrog ahead. And so what interests me is when we have the ability, will we have the ability, and we do have the ability to leapfrog and become leaders. And so will we take that? And what I see this space as is a platform that we can support them doing that. So I would love to see the province leverage all the technology and leapfrog ahead and be leaders in the spaces that we are already have established businesses in. So that resource sector, that renewable energy sector, what can we do to show the world what is possible in a province like this? So I'm really excited.
Here we are at the edge of the world in Newfoundland.
Innovation at the edge.
Right? Surrounded by water.
Yep.
We talked about a rising tide floats all boats. To stick with that nautical analogy for just a moment, all of this does not happen without a steady hand on the tiller, pointing us in the right direction. So thank you very much for your leadership on this. We very much appreciate what you're doing for the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, but also for our country. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Gale Force Winds. That's Gale Force Winds, WINS.com.